you're the committee, you had to deal with this witness last week. He said he was
Greenwood.
going to come in. Now his attorney sends a letter saying the select committee has no intention of respecting boundaries concerning executive privilege. They had that conversation a week ago. This is why.
Yeah, I can imagine they're pretty frustrated. I can also imagine that they're pretty confused because on one hand, he just released a book that talks about a lot of the same things that they would like to question him probably in a more direct way than he would like to answer. But it does come across that perhaps he wasn't genuine earlier when he indicated he might work with the committee.
And is there any privilege? Obviously, we're waiting for the appeals court case involving the former president, and everybody else would flow from there. The conversation we had before is maybe this document or that document, you have a negotiation over certain things, but this broad idea that Mark Meadows can say nothing about everything Trump said from Election Day to Insurrection Day is poppycock, right?
It's absolutely poppycock. I like the word, I'll use it. Now I'm hungry to think about the actual snack, poppycock. But I gotta tell you, it really is frustrating because now you're saying you can't answer what your name is or conversations you've had with anyone besides the President of the United States. You can't talk about what's already in the public sphere, what you gave to a publisher, what you wrote down. None of that can be talked about. You see, I think he actually has a stronger case than, say, a Steve Bannon about privilege, right? He's the chief of staff to a president. They obviously have a candid conversation. They're talking about things you want them to have conversations about. The institution of the presidency is really about trying to protect those candid conversations. But the idea of saying nothing, having a carte blanche to say, I don't have to do anything for you, is absolute foolishness. Also, I can't imagine they're fully surprised by this. Remember when he talked about the idea just last week, we heard reporting about having the first COVID test negative at that first debate with Senator Guthrie. And then Trump interjects, suddenly it's fake news. Now it's a conversation about, I'm willing to cooperate, Trump probably weighing in, thinking about the conversations in the Georgia race about, not liking Brian Kemp and the like for not throwing the big lie. Suddenly, Meadows had to take a step back. This is not coincidence, but it's the kind of gamesmanship that should not win out in Congress.
And it's the kind of gamesmanship that, again, puts to the test the credibility of this committee.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Look, when it comes to these privilege claims, it doesn't matter if a lot of experts think that these are BS claims and that, he's going to lose in court. This has been Donald Trump's MO from day one and all his allies. For years, as Democrats have tried to investigate, he's throwing up all these claims of privilege, so is immune, doesn't have to cooperate, even though they never worked in the White House. And then they go to the courts, and it takes a long time. This just drags out the investigation, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. I mean, clearly Mark Meadows wanted to just do enough that he can argue to a federal judge that he tried to cooperate, but then, had a change of heart because they wanted to talk about things they thought were privileged. But yeah, it's gonna potentially impact the work of this committee because Trump is once again throwing up the same stone wall that he has for the past 3 years.
If there's a